It's March 17th, 2019. Welcome back to Destination Pro Wrestling. My name is Tony. You can follow me on Twitter at Tango with Ango, and here on Destination Pro Wrestling, I talk about pretty much everything that's relevant in the wrestling world. And today we're going to talk a little bit about AEW. All Elite Wrestling making some big moves. We knew for a while now that they've had this partnership with AAA, and we didn't really know what this partnership was going to do, and we didn't know too many of the details. We knew that there was a deal. We knew that they were working together. But Cody Rhodes revealed in a recent interview that AAA and AEW will, in fact, be doing a talent share. And this is not just a talent share with like lower ranked roster members. This is something where guys like Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho will also be featured on AAA programming. Now, here in the United States, a lot of people, by the looks of it on social media, don't know too much about AAA and its rich history. And you know, I could be one of those guys that, you know, I'll raise my hand and kind of say the same thing. I'm still learning about the product. I've always known about AAA, but obviously having access to it and stuff like that, it's kind of been hard. Now, one of the things that AAA did that was so wonderful for their company was broadcasting on Twitch, because for those who only know me as a YouTuber, I've also had a lot of background with Twitch as well. So for me, just knowing that AAA was being live broadcasted on Twitch.tv was huge. And so with that, you know, partnership for Twitch and AAA, I've started to watch AAA a little bit more. And I knew it was a big deal that they were going into a partnership, but we didn't necessarily know what this partnership was going to have. So Cody Rhodes confirms that we are going to see a talent share. So kudos to Cody for making that announcement and clarifying. But what's really nice is kind of what AAA and AEW has already done together, and that started this past weekend when AAA went live on broadcast, and they you know, they had a really good show. It felt very cool, high production value, something that I've noticed a lot recently with AAA. And a lot of people, you know, they love to talk about how AAA can't compete with WWE, but it's two separate companies that do something totally different. And I think AAA fits more of the AEW realm. And everything that AAA and AEW do together can be consistently, you know, if it's the production value is consistent and it seems like they relate one to another, that's big news. That's a big step forward. So a guy like Chris Jericho or Kenny Omega showing up on AAA is not only a really, really good thing for AAA and for the audience in Mexico, but it's a huge thing for the audience in the United States who have never seen AAA. And for me, Twitch has started to open my eyes to, you know, really explore that, because the distribution is a lot harder for me to get into. So, this is where things are incredible for AEW. So we know the Young Bucks win the tag titles for AAA, and we know that at Double or Nothing, it's pretty much like 99.999% confirmed that they're going to defend their titles at Double or Nothing. So that's a wonderful thing, because not only are we getting a talent share, but we're going to see both stars, you know, stars from AAA prominently featured on AEW, and we're going to see guys from AEW prominently featured on AAA. It looks like this is going to be a healthy working relationship. And I think sometimes what often happens is people think that two big companies cannot coexist. And if you're one of the people sitting down watching this video saying AEW is not big, check their bank account. Like, that right there says everything you need to know. AEW has the money, and now they have the resources, especially since it's going to be a very long time, at least until October roughly. You know, we're not going to have television on a daily basis or a weekly basis from AEW. So the only real sort of content that we're going to get from AEW is Being the Elite, Road to Double or Nothing, and whatever other docu-series that they do on YouTube. And then their relationships with AAA will kind of give us a little bit of insight. So we're going to see some people from AEW featured on there, and we're going to see some people on AAA featured on AEW. Now, in my previous video, I talked about Jim Cornette burying the roster, and a lot of people had some things to say about this. A lot of people said no, he did not, and a lot of people said yes, he did. And the whole he say, she say thing, what you guys need to know, bottom line, is a lot of people are very highly opinionated on the Jim Cornette talking about AEW's roster. Now, what was shocking to me was how many people actually agreed with me, in that regard, because AEW does have a lighter roster right now. Now, one of the issues that they're not facing as a company, which thankfully, this is usually a really hard thing with growing pains, but their roster is a decently sized roster, and it's still several months away from them being on TV. And some of the big names in their product basically shows the wrestling world AEW has the money and resources, and they have the tools to put on a good show without even putting on a good show. And that's because they have some quality roster members. Now, if you're looking at the AEW roster and you don't know who some of these people are, that's the best part about this deal, because AAA already has an existing platform. So while AEW may struggle to introduce some of these no names, right? I got to use quotation marks because they're not really no names, but for you, if you've never seen their body of work, AAA has a platform where they're distributing their content extremely well, right? They're doing a really good job. Production value, it's really good, but they're doing it for free, and they're doing it on Twitch. Now, it's not hard to get yourself a keyboard like this and go on the computer and type in Twitch. Oh, see, look, I even messed up my video trying to do that, but that's what I'm getting at, right? Like, They have content live. Like, you can watch their show live. And that's the best part. Like, some of these people you don't know, AEW has the opportunity to use AAA as their platform. And, with guys like Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho going to AAA, it's now going to get the Mexican fans, the fans in Mexico, the fans of AAA are now going to be introduced to some of these talents that maybe they've seen before, but they're maybe not too invested in them, and maybe it's the same reason, maybe the distribution, to Mexico is a little bit different. For a lot of people who know Kenny Omega, they know Kenny Omega because of Japan. Well, I don't live in Mexico. I don't know how it is to get New Japan in Mexico, but I know here in the United States, a lot of it, like Access TV, only gets you a very little bit of an look inside their show. So obviously that's where a thing like New Japan World, which is not as user friendly. It's not on Apple TV or Roku and stuff like that. So my point that I'm getting at is AAA is going to open up doors for fans to now start falling in love with AEW. It's going to get people behind AEW. And AEW's product is going to start allowing people to give an inside look to AAA. Now, for me, one thing that I've always questioned with this partnership was whether or not AEW was doing this for clout. Clout, the term that people have been using on the internet for this past year. Because part of me thought that maybe AEW was making an announcement, hey, we got this cool partnership with AAA, and they got a rich history and blah, 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 blah. But realistically, this is a relationship that not only benefits AEW, it benefits wrestling. We've seen what Impact has done with AAA, and we know guys like Killer Cross and Johnny Impact, and we know Taya Valkyrie. Like, we know, like, these people are prominently featured in both programs. It's giving people the ability to watch and know about the product. I've always known about AAA, but I've never really had the opportunity to watch AAA. Now that it's free on Twitch, I try to tune in here and there. Yeah, I might be ignorant and may not understand everything that's going on. And, that's because there's a lot of wrestling that I watch. It's hard to keep up with everything. But I love watching an alternative. And AEW is going to present a sport-centric show. It's going to have entertainment elements, but the idea it's going to be a more sport-centric wrestling show. And some of the best wrestling is taking place in Mexico. So it's a win-win situation for both companies. Guys like Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho going to Mexico is only going to bring positive attention to AEW. And that's one thing about, AEW. Yeah, they may not have the most popular roster, but they have a very skillful roster. So, TV deal may not happen until October. This is the limelight that they need. And for people that are unfamiliar, right? Like we talked about this Jim Cornette thing. If you're unfamiliar with these people's body of work, AAA has an existing platform that is easy accessible now online, and you can start to see that. And you don't have to wait for a TV deal. And the best part is the Young Bucks winning the tag titles. Well, they're more than likely defending them at Double or Nothing. It's just going to create a lot better of it's going to create a lot better of a relationship, not only for short term, but for long term. And That's what I love, man. I love to see companies thrive, and I love to see resources being used the right way. And a company like Impact and AAA, they both did it. And maybe this opens the doors for AAA to, feature the AEW Championship belt, and maybe the AEW champion shows up on Impact. Maybe Impact's champion shows up on AEW and AAA. Like, that's the beauty of this. Because of these working relationships, I think AAA is going to open up more doors for AEW, just because people are going to see how great that relationship's working. They're going to want a little piece of that. And if you're AEW, your roster is a little bit light. And part of the growing pains is, investing in talents. And for a lot of people that are stuck in WWE contracts, they may not be able to go to AEW yet. So AEW, AAA, Impact, a lot of these companies opposing WWE, maybe they will see a benefit from working together. And it starts with AAA and it starts with AEW working together. So all in all, very interesting stuff. I'm glad Cody Rhodes clarified this stuff. I want to know what you guys think in the comments section down below here on Destination Pro Wrestling. I got some interviews coming up with some AEW wrestlers, and it's going to be some really cool stuff too. So make sure you guys click that like button, leave a comment down below. And as always, make sure you guys click subscribe here on Destination Pro Wrestling.